When drawing the sword, there are several details that go into drawing the sword to begin with. First, the thumb is on the tsuba, and the thumb should be flat, not like this and not like this. Part of this reason is to keep the sword from falling out. Part of this reason is to push it out. If the sword fits the saya correctly, it will be snug in the saya, and you will kind of have to push it past the habaki to break it free from the saya, from the mouth of the saya. So this thumb goes on the tsuba and holds it. And one of the reasons it's flat is so that you can't tell if I'm pushing the sword open or holding it in place. If I were doing this or this, it's a big telegraphing movement that I'm taking action. But by keeping it straight, it's invisible, or it's nearly invisible. So if I'm walking toward you, before I even put my hand on the sword, I've already got it out that far, which makes it easier and quicker to draw. Fundamentally important movement to draw the sword is that you always push the sword. You never pull the sword out, you push the sword out. Like this kind of thing. So one hand pulls the saya back while the other hand pushes the sword. So it looks a great deal like this type of chambering movement, chambering, punching kind of movement. This comes out like a punch and cuts around. But the sword is always pushed with elbows fairly narrow. You don't want to push out like this. You want to get in real small and push the sword. So I'm pushing to cut. When I'm drawing the sword, I want to draw toward the opponent to make it difficult for the opponent to see how much of the blade that I have out. This will all happen very quickly, but my goal is to have as much advantage in the moment as possible. So remember I'm sneaky when I push this out, and as I'm coming to draw, they might know that I'm drawing, but they might not know how far out the sword is. Hopefully it looks to them like I'm not pushing anything out hardly yet, but it's already out. Saya biki, which is pulling the saya back. So when I draw the sword, I don't just push the sword out. If the sword fits you, you shouldn't be able to push the blade all the way out of the saya while you're wearing it. You should have to pull the saya off of the blade. That way you have as much reach and length for your body as you can with your sword. So as I am drawing, so I'm walking toward the opponent, drawing the sword toward them. Now, the saya biki is important because as I draw the sword, the saya is coming off in my step, so that it's difficult for the person you're drawing against to see when the sword is out until it's too late. The draw is part of the cut. When the sword comes out of the saya, the draw and the cut should be one fluid movement. So the drawing of the sword is part of the cut. I don't draw it and then make a cut. I draw it as part of the cut. So I'm walking and drawing and then cut. And that's should all be one fluid motion. So everything should work together to not draw attention to the idea that I'm drawing the sword until it's too late. From the side, I'm drawing, So it should be one movement. To review, today we learned that we hold the tsuba straight so that we can push it out without telegraphing. We draw the sword by pushing the sword toward the opponent's line of sight. We pull the saya back to clear the sword.